Let's face it, hiring help is not easy these days. Let XenTegra Staffing help you find the right person for the right job. Head over to XenTegra.com/XenTegra Staffing to find out more and let us staff your people needs. Welcome to another Citrix session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Citrix Session podcast. Andy Whiteside for your host, and I got Bill Sutton with me. Bill's the Director of Services, and we also have Pete Downing, our Chief Marketing and Technology Officer. And guys, as I started to come into the intro, I realized that I did not go out and check what episode we're on. Did either one of you guys know?
20.
This is episode 20. All right, great. So, Bill, what's anything new in Bill's world?
Oh, not really. Just living the dream.
How many active projects at XenTegra are you currently managing?
It's about 45.
45. Wow. Yeah, we talk about it almost daily, and it's certainly a workload, but we're getting you some help and going to continue to expand our services practice.
That's right. Yep.
So with Bill, we also have Pete Downing, again, our CMTO, and I say this every time I introduce Pete. It's not an accident that our marketing and technical guy are the same person, because that, in my world, that just makes a lot of sense. How's it going, Pete?
It's going well, Andy. Actually sitting in my home office today, so a little change of pace.
That's good. Not on the road. I wish I could say the same. I'm in a airport lounge in Providence, Rhode Island, going to see a client here in a few minutes. Planes, trains, and automobiles this week. So, guys, with us, we have Gabe Carrejo, and Gabe worked with Pete and I when we were at Citrix, and we go back a long ways. And Gabe was product manager, or was the project manager for the remote PC product we're going to talk about as part of a blog that was written by Nitin Sharma, who's joined us in the past. Gabe, how's it going?
Andy, it's going great. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate to come on to talk about remote PC access to you and your listeners. It's been a while since we've had a chance to chat about this. So thanks for having me on.
It's always interesting because when I see Gabe, we automatically start talking about remote PC. I love that solution and was kind of pitching it before Citrix made it a product, and then Gabe worked with the team there at Citrix to make it a real product, and it's just way under talked about and underutilized, and there's some really good use cases and stories. Gabe, what's your official title these days?
My official title is just a plain generic program manager. I used to be product manager for the solution for remote PC access. I used it for about 3.5 years. I really went a little bit of history on that is found all the customer demand and the desire to deploy Citrix technology, start find that solution, and then kind of build from there. But I'm still the go-to person within Citrix on this technology. So people come to me from all walks of the globe for sales support, technical support, all of those things remote PC access.
That's great. So we're going to jump into that in a minute. Nitin starts off the article, the blog, by talking about Mother Nature and the world throwing you curveballs. And of course, we're in the middle of a couple situations. You're actually coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee. You guys have had some weather-related stuff over the past week or so, haven't you?
Yeah, we had unfortunately a tornado pass through last week. Went through a little bit of downtown and went through East Nashville and then out to a couple of counties along this really I-40 path. Unfortunately, there was some, a lot of damage that was done. In fact, yesterday I was out in East Nashville at an event to help volunteer and do other things, donate time and money. So we're strong. We've had floods in 2010 that really took the city a couple of steps back, and we'll get through this one too.
Yeah, so you never know what Mother Nature's going to give you. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the coronavirus thing that's going on. I don't want to make that the reason for this podcast. We were planning on doing it anyway, but obviously there's other reasons why we might need to work remotely and take advantage of technologies that have been put in place by our organization. One of my favorite stories is to talk about the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, 12 years ago, whatever that was now, getting close to 12, and how one of my law firms, they used remote PC at that point in time to keep business going. And then Charlotte's got the Republican National Convention coming up here in a few months. I think 175 days is what I think I heard on the news this morning driving to the airport. And so that's coming up, and you just never know where you're going to need to work from on any given day. And remote PC just allows you to extend your use case, leveraging Citrix technologies that you may already have in place or may need to put in place, but just tie right in. So let's jump into the article here. Talks about a lot of organizations have Citrix, and a lot and a bunch don't. But remote PC is a way to continue to leverage that investment in Citrix. And it kind of goes over the architecture. And what's interesting, I'd love to get your take on this, is the as a service option within Citrix now makes remote PC adoption even easier, right?
Yeah, that's right. For a while, it was only available for on-premises customers. They wanted to control the infrastructure and manage things that way. And then, a few years ago, we brought in the capability. At first, actually, within the virtual apps and desktop service, and you had to use a kind of an API to remote in and manage the catalogs, etc. We'll get to what those are, but now it's a full-blown option when you go into Citrix virtual apps and desktops in the cloud, and you're able to manage your on-prem PCs, if you will, and the users that connect to them through that service.
It's interesting because I remember the first time I saw a desktop as a service, Citrix Cloud, if you will, that was missing, and I thought about that moment, just kind of moved on. Hey, I want to say a couple things real quick. So secure remote access to PCs and laptops using Citrix Cloud with XenApp and XenDesktop service. That's the actual title of the blog that Nitin wrote, and that's from April 2nd of 2018. So I guess it's been that long since you guys added it to the service. Bill, do you have any history with remote PC that you would share as we start to get into it?
I've got a little history. Back in the consulting days, we had I had several customers that leveraged the technology. A university that had some unique application needs. So they had a bank of devices running in their data center that they remote PC'd to. A chemical company that used it kind of as a work at home initiative. Folks had their PCs on their desks. Some of them had laptops they didn't take home with them. So they would remote into them that way. And we've seen a lot of interest in it from on my consulting team, a lot of projects that are starting to work their way through the system from customers that are looking at it, as you said earlier, Andy, as a means to allow work from home under this pandemic situation that we find ourselves in.
Pete, how about you? You got any remote PC stories where you've seen it save the day and be the answer?
My story actually goes back to the days of Bloomberg and when I was working with them as a customer. And Gabe, I think you were involved actually, and I was still the lowly PM on provisioning services, aka PVS, and they were one of the core customers who actually drove to fruition what is remote PC today. And their big use case was, hey, we have these big, massive Excel spreadsheets that these financial folks will work on, and it will take down the at the time XenApp servers. So we need a way to run them efficiently, but also be able to access them from anywhere, whether at home or in the office. So that's one of their big drivers was, hey, I need a way to access the PC just like I do a VDI session. So that's kind of my story and the roots of remote PC, which I love the product too. I'm a big fan, and I push it everywhere as well.
Well, so that's a good point. Remote PC is for remoting into your physical computer, but it can also be for remoting into a more powerful than a VDI solution, like a Blade desktop or some type of cartridge. What's that thing called from HP? The Moonshot. So it's not just limited for remote access and business continuity, but it plays really well there. So, Gabe, moving this to the service. What was the big win for Citrix customers in making it part of the service versus the on-prem solution only?
Well, it just kind of goes along the blend of being able to manage things that you don't own. Back when Mark Templeton was the CEO, he was talking about don't own stuff. That was, I think, a synergy and 2011 or 2012 or something like that. But it goes to the value of customers simply wanting to manage their things through a browser and not have to stand up the infrastructure. So, today's connectivity is, pretty much you sign into the service. You create a couple of interconnecting, one's called a catalog and an Active Directory group, and you install our agent across all your PCs, and then they register or they flow through something called a cloud connector, and every cloud solution has some sort of connector that things must go through to connect to the cloud. And we released last Friday a technology called Rendezvous for Citrix Cloud that remote PC customers will be very happy if they deploy in a cloud infrastructure, where the protocol, ICA for old school, HDX for new school, it bypasses the connector completely and goes directly to the gateway, which means we can scale to, however much that gateway traffic can handle. Before, the connectors were somewhat of a bottleneck, but now, because you have not only the management of the cloud service and all the parts, the controller, the licensing, the databases, all of that living somewhere else and not in your infrastructure, you deploy the VDAs everywhere through software delivery. You stand up a connector just so they can talk to the infrastructure in cloud, but then all connectivity after that for user experience goes through a gateway, either on premises or at service. You're starting to also go into why the benefits of really remote PC as its basic level, and talking about how customers connect today. And it really started a very long time ago, where PC Anywhere. I don't know if you all remember that. You stood up an NT server with remote RAS technology. They dialed in, and then they connected to their office PC. Speed forward through today's timeline, and not a whole lot has changed. They stand up VPNs. They provide a RDP client to their users, so their home desktop, their home PC, has a VPN client sitting on it. They launch that, then they launch an RDP session, and then they type in their machine name and they connect in, or they type in somebody else's machine name and they connect in.
Yeah.
All authentication happens at the end of the session.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I met with 2 clients last week in New York that's their answer, and they're pretty proud of it. And then you start talking through about how much better it could be, and all of a sudden light bulbs start going off for them. And in both cases, they have hundreds and hundreds of Citrix licenses sitting there not being used. So why not take advantage of them?
Yeah, so that's really our kind of strongest point. Obviously, then other than the performance of the protocol and the local experience they get, is you get to eliminate the VPNs and trying to manage those endpoints. You don't have to manage the tunnel either. So network address translation, all that stuff goes out the window, and suddenly you're just using basically really just a viewer into your PC through our workspace client, which is running obviously as kind of a portal to connect into that PC.
Right, with the high fidelity protocol, the best on the market, proven, tried and true, high fidelity protocol that's going to give you the best user experience, almost like you're sitting there, right?
Very much like you're sitting there, and I've actually heard reports it's almost better sometimes. I don't know the very how true that is, but I'll let those customers decide for themselves.
Yeah. So just to hit on the article on the blog real quick. So you don't need a VPN. You get to use the beauty of ICA. I mean, the marketing guys will make me call it HDX, but ICA, and you get to avoid the expensive endpoint conversation where you tell users to use whatever they want, their Chromebook, their home computer, you name it. Now all of a sudden all that becomes simple, and you're still getting the power and the configuration that you already have in your data center. Hey Bill, any additional thoughts on those topics?
No, I think you said it pretty well in terms of selling the value of it and understanding how better it is than the traditional route of VPN plus RDP, which we still see, as you said, in the market. So definitely is a product, a topic that we should bring up with all of our customers, particularly those that are doing that.
Hey, Pete, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the only thought I have, in because I don't want it to definitely get lost, but is the whole notion of, and Gabe kind of covered it with the whole connector and the ability to spin up Citrix Cloud, is the whole notion of the front door. So the front door now is your workspace, and it makes it easier to access pretty much any scenario with Citrix now. And I'm excited about the whole gateway service and workspace because it just simplifies how you roll out Citrix in your enterprise today. And it truly does get rid of the need for clunky port forwarding and also the ability to have a VPN at the edge. It puts the onus on Citrix now to make sure it's secured end to end. And then Gabe, you mentioned the rendezvous. I'm excited about that. That gets rid of the whole hairpinning issue and just makes the user experience that much better if you're on site or in a WAN scenario, right, where the WAN does the routing for you. So the rendezvous protocol is awesome. I'm very excited about that.
So something to point out here in the article, real quick, Gabe, one of the things it talks about in the article is, and I do want to point out, this article we're reviewing was written well before there was a current pandemic, right? So the article talks about digital workspaces and how people are moving in that direction, and geopolitical, sudden storms, worldwide events, things that happened in the 90s that will continue to happen forever. This solution shouldn't be something we're talking about today because of the current situation. It's to be something customers are thinking about all the time. And real quick to add to that, the law firm I worked with, they used the sudden need of trying to work during a geopolitical situation as a justification for getting the licenses in-house, and now they've moved into a VDI scenario. So they're remote PCing into virtual desktops, aka VDI. Hey, Gabe, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I mean, on that topic, I've seen, all sorts, hurricanes coming, you write bad weather, geopolitical, concerns around being able to have that flexibility to offer to new employees. That's actually something that is, taken on, more speed the last year and a half, I feel. And so the flexibility of being able to work anywhere is, true unless you have a physical PC without this technology. One thing that I did want to mention on the last kind of section of the blog was the way that Citrix admins got around providing VPNs and RDP is they published RDP as an app to all their users. So the users would get home and they'd launch through that app an RDP session to then connect to their PC, and instead they're not getting the benefits of ICA/HDX from the user to the endpoint because they have to use that VNAP server as a protocol proxy system, and that makes the experience really terrible because you're effectively consuming two protocols. You're not getting the benefits of your licensing because you're most likely also a enterprise or platinum customer in the old world of licensing and not using those licenses on the shelf. And you lose full control of policies and protection around an end-to-end solution. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out for your existing, then a presentation server, now virtual apps admins, is you have this thing you can replace and use fully to your capability.
It gets better and simpler all at the same time, right? And that admin has less to worry about.
That's right.
So for you guys that are with me on the podcast, you see I just pulled up a map of the Caribbean, and literally a couple of years ago, we were on a call, hurricane season, with a customer in Antigua, and they were wanting to buy some Citrix licenses and implement Citrix, and they were outside and it was really windy. And at some point it came clear in the conversation they were doing this because there was a hurricane coming. Like, guys, it's too late. I mean, I get it. I'd love to help you, but now with Citrix as a service, if they've got something to connect it to, like a cloud, like Azure, like GCP, like AWS, or even just a server sitting in their data center, or in this case, their existing physical desktops, maybe could have been done maybe in an afternoon or so if all things go correctly.
Yeah, we see also in all of those examples intellectual property in providing systems that folks from across the world can connect to in case that customer is concerned about intellectual property leakage. If you don't send the thing around the world in some sort of digital format, you don't have to worry about that IP getting leaked.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually the very first time I ever saw a remote PC before there was a remote PC, and that was an engineering firm that was looking to keep their intellectual property in the U.S., but still have people access it. And it was systems that were way beyond what VDI could do at that time. So we were looking at physical PCs, and I said to them, "Hey guys, you're going to spend a fortune on this. You're crazy." And they we don't care. Our intellectual property is worth more than we'll ever spend on this.
Yeah, Andy, another example that I had is something as simple as expensive software. So, using AutoCAD as an example, CAD can be very expensive. And yeah, you can run it in a XenApp or VDI session, but even there, it could be very sluggish and not a great user experience. So you could put it on an end user's computer and then allow them to remote PC from anywhere into their robust, CAD computer and not have the risk of losing not only the IP, but also the software itself, because the software can be very expensive. And then if you ever get audited, you're not explaining why user X has software installed on their home PC that's owned by the company. So that's another great example that I've seen with a lot of our CAD firms we work with.
There must be 20 different angles where remote PC makes sense, even if you're not a traditional Citrix shop. But if you are, it makes a ton of sense. Hey Gabe, I just happened to look down at my phone, and there's a tweet from you around a client that's rolling remote PC out as we speak. Is that something you can just kind of go over real quick, or is that something we probably shouldn't talk about?
No, sure. I can't obviously provide the customer's name, but it's something that, as a result of the current situation and environment out there, they had a project down the road for considering to, move more users into a VDI/DAS scenario. They also have a little bit of renewal coming up. And in light of the current situation, they learned about, remote PC access from, somebody talking to them about it. And within the product itself, when they manage, they see the information. So, it started really at the ground level with the admins, socializing, and, within from I think it was the 27th of last month to today, they made the decision to roll it out to 20,000 users, a national bank. There was, the had a whole lot of hiccups with it. There was, one minor thing that took a little bit to figure out, but we got over that. And, now their next goal is to widely distribute the VDA, which is what we call the agent that goes on the PCs, to those 28,000 users. And they're taking advantage of this is, kind of one of our value add over just the RDP VPN. You can auto-assign a user, so when they walk up to their PC after the agent is there, it will recognize, who they are, and assign them their own PC, so it doesn't show up for everybody else. And the admins don't have to do anything behind the scenes. It's just the user and their PC, and they log in locally, and it's assigned to them.
Yeah, I think that kind of highlights something real quick, and it's at the conclusion of this blog here where Citrix not only is the only company that actually thinks this is a viable solution that should be productized, they're making it really smart and have made it smart for a while, and now it includes the ability to deliver through a service. Hey, Bill, any closing thoughts on remote PC before we start to work our way towards the end of the blog? The podcast?
Nope, not today.
Hey, Pete, how about you?
No, I think this was a great conversation and great to hook up with Gabe again. I love working with you, man, and I'd love to keep working with you guys to figure out how we educate, everybody on this great technology.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings me to a point here. I'd love, Gabe, if we could work with you to maybe do a little bit more than even Citrix does to get the word out on not only remote PC, but the Xen desktop service that is just the VDI piece of Citrix that is a fantastic solution, not all that expensive to get into. I guess that does lead me to say that the remote PC portion is part of Citrix virtual app and desktop suite or service, but just the virtual desktop service is something that I've challenged my team to talk more about this year, because it can be a very cost-effective way to get Citrix in the door, and then we can land and expand from there. But Gabe, with that, I'll give you the microphone one more time. If there's anything else that you want to bring up here, I'd love to talk about it.
No, I just I want to thank you, Andy, and everybody here at the XenTegra team for allowing me to come on and kind of socialize it a little bit more. I think it's a great technology and a use case that kind of feels like it's overlooked, as well as maybe taken advantage of because they just assume it's there in some form or fashion, without really taking a hard look at, is it strategic for us? And I think in these times, a lot of folks are finding out, oh yeah, it is strategic to us, not simply just a tactical use case. So thanks again, Andy, for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gabe. Yeah, my motto on that is, if you're using it every day, then you're proving the business continuity every day. And so when it comes times like this, you don't have to plan for it, because you're just using it every day. But I guess with that, guys, I'll let you go. Gabe, thanks for joining us. Bill, Pete, as always, thank you for being part of this, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guests. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. Head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series.